Marcus Vance walked briskly through the VIP terminal of JFK International, his Italian leather shoes making crisp, confident clicks against the marble floor. The terminal was mostly quiet, just the way he liked it. Cassie clung to his arm, laughing softly as they passed a row of high-end boutique shops. Her curls bounced with each step, and she wore a red designer coat he had bought her 2 weeks ago. It still had the tag on it. "I want something that smells expensive," she teased, stopping. "In front of the Dior counter. Something your wife would never wear." He didn't laugh. Instead, he glanced at his Rolex, then at his phone. 4 unread messages, all from Elena, his wife. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and spread the word, and tell us where you're watching from. "Come on," Cassie nudged, pulling him toward the perfume bottles. "Loosen up. You said this trip was for us." He forced a smile. "Yeah, for us." Cassie sprayed a tester on her wrist and offered it to him. "Smell. Tell me what this says." Marcus leaned in, but his eyes were elsewhere, darting past the glass walls to the private jet parked on the tarmac. His mouth twitched into something. That wasn't quite a smile. "It says trouble," he murmured. Cassie laughed and looped her arm through his again. "Good. That's what I'm going for." They moved to the register. Marcus handed over his black card and muttered to himself, "Zurich meeting. Zurich meeting." As if trying to rehearse the lie one last time. He'd told Elena he was flying to Zurich for an emergency board negotiation. Told her it came up suddenly. Told her not to wait up. Told her he'd call from the hotel. Every word had landed too easily, too cleanly. Elena had nodded, too calmly. The cashier bagged the perfume. Marcus took it with a tight smile and led Cassie toward gate C-17. A flight attendant in a crisp navy uniform greeted them with a nod and scanned their boarding passes. Cassie leaned her head on his shoulder as they approached the gate. "No work calls on the plane, promise?" He hesitated. "I'll put it on silent," but the phone buzzed again. "Text Elena. Hope Zurich treats you well. Tell them to offer you exactly what you're worth." He swallowed hard. Was it sarcasm? Or trust? Cassie tugged his hand. "You okay?" "Yeah," he lied. "Just a lot riding on this." As they stepped onto the jet bridge, the noise of the terminal faded behind them. The hush was almost comforting. Then, "Daddy?" The word sliced through the air like a razor. Marcus stopped dead in his tracks. Cassie paused, confused. "What?" Another voice. Tiny. Innocent. Closer now. "Daddy, wait!" Marcus turned slowly. Behind them, past the glass wall of the private terminal, a small boy was running, weaving between travelers. No more than 5. Curly hair. Small backpack swinging wildly. And right behind him, a woman. Coat unzipped. A scarf falling from her shoulder. Her eyes locked on Marcus. Cassie turned too, puzzled. "Do you know them?" Marcus's jaw clenched. His lips didn't move. The boy reached the glass and pressed both hands against it, breath fogging the window. "Daddy!" The gate agent called again. "Mr. Vance boarding now." Cassie raised an eyebrow. "Marcus?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. He turned away, slowly, deliberately, and walked toward the jet. Cassie followed, silent now, tension rising between each step. As the doors sealed behind them, the boy outside kept calling. But no one turned back, and Cassie never saw the tremble in Marcus's hand as he slipped his phone into airplane mode. 24 hours earlier, the house smelled like cinnamon oatmeal and expensive cologne. Elena Vance moved quietly through the kitchen, her satin robe brushing against her ankles as she placed fruit slices into a bento-style lunchbox. Her hands worked with muscle memory. Apple bunny ears, a peanut butter star, 3 blueberries tucked into a cupcake liner. Noah liked his lunches to look like stories. She always delivered. "Mommy, where's my Batman spoon?" Her son's sleepy voice floated in from the hallway. "Check the dishwasher, baby," Elena called back, tone gentle. Upstairs, the water in the master shower roared on. glanced at the clock. Marcus never showered this long. She tapped the tablet on the counter, intending to pull up a recipe. Instead, the screen lit up with the last open tab, an order confirmation. Nyman Marcus. Order ER 8473 confirmed. Elena blinked. Her breath slowed. Item: Cartier diamond droplet pendant price. $14,900 shipping address. 321 Haven Suites, Upper West Side. She stared, not at the amount, but the address. She knew that address. It wasn't their home, and it wasn't Marcus's office. The shower was still running. She tapped once more. Her fingers moved fast now. She pulled up his calendar. A Zurich flight blocked out 2 days. No flight number, no hotel name. Just board review, confidential. He had kissed her on the cheek last night and said, "Don't wait up. You know how these meetings go." But Elena knew something else. She knew when her husband was lying. She closed the tablet, didn't delete the tab. Instead, she set it exactly where it was before, slightly off center beside the coffee mug he always left half full. She returned to the kitchen, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear as she closed Noah's lunchbox with a snap. Batman spoon secured, Noah announced, running in with a triumphant grin. Elena smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Then you're officially ready for your mission." He raised his arms. "To school and back without fear." Elena hugged him, tighter than usual. Upstairs, the water stopped. Elena turned toward the stairs just as Marcus emerged, towel around his waist, phone already in hand. He met her eyes for a beat too long. "You okay?" he asked, voice casual. She kissed his cheek lightly. "Of course. Zurich, right?" He hesitated, just slightly. "Yeah, Zurich. I'll text when I land." She nodded. Safe travels. And that was it. No confrontation. No questions. Elena had learned the power of silence long ago. Words gave liars a stage. Silence built their own rope. Hours later, once Marcus left, Elena sat alone at the edge of their bed. She played a voicemail from his assistant, one he didn't know she still had access to. "And let me know if you need anything packed for Geneva. Oh, and congrats on your anniversary with Cassie." Elena didn't flinch. She picked up her keys, called Noah's school for an early release. She would follow him, not because she wanted revenge, because her son had a right to know the man behind the word daddy. The cabin lights dimmed as the jet climbed above the clouds, blanketing the world below in silence and altitude. Cassie curled her legs onto the cream leather seat and took the champagne flute from Marcus's hand. "This jet still smells like your wife's perfume," she said lightly. Marcus didn't respond. He sat across from her, rolling the Cartier box between his palms like a gambler unsure of his next bet. She sipped, eyes trained on him. "Well?" With a sigh, Marcus leaned forward and set the velvet box on the glass table between them. "Happy 6 months." Cassie raised an eyebrow. 6 months of what? Marcus didn't answer right away. His hand lingered over the box, but then he pulled it back and gestured for her to open it. Cassie popped the clasp with practiced ease. Inside, the diamond pendant sparkled under the cabin lights. Delicate, expensive, impersonal. She gave a low, appreciative whistle. "It's beautiful." He watched her closely. "But," she added, "kind of safe." His eyes narrowed. "Safe? You're a man who can afford anything," she said, holding the necklace up to the light. "And you pick something that says you mean something, but not too much." Marcus leaned back. "You sound disappointed." "I'm not." She smiled, but it didn't touch her eyes. "I just thought we were past this part." "What part?" "The jewelry to keep me happy part." Marcus reached for his drink. "You wanted a gesture. That's what this is." "No," she said, softer now. "What I want is a decision." The words hovered between them, unspoken tension thickening in the pressurized air. Cassie stood and walked toward the full-length mirror near the cabin door. She clasped the necklace around her neck, admiring herself, adjusting the pendant like she was testing its weight. "You know what I hate about diamonds?" she said. "They're always hiding blood. You just have to know where to look." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Cassie, I know about Elena," she said, still looking at her reflection. "I know she doesn't believe you anymore. I know she checks your devices. I know she's smart enough not to confront you until it's too late." He stiffened. "How?" Cassie finally turned. "Because I watched women like her growing up. The ones who kept their mouths shut while their men disappeared behind business class in boardrooms. My mother was one. So was her mother. It's a type." Marcus stood, voice low. "And what are you?" Cassie walked slowly toward him. "The type who knows what she wants and how to get it." He stared at her, jaw clenched. "So you're using me? Don't flatter yourself." She leaned in. "I'm just making sure I'm not the one being used." She kissed his cheek and sat back down, pulling the necklace off and setting it beside her glass. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was no longer luxurious, it was loaded. Marcus turned to the window, staring out into the clouds, but his mind wasn't on Zurich, and far below them, Elena was already in the city. Watching, waiting. The automatic doors slid open with a cold hiss as Elena stepped into the terminal. She walked slowly, deliberately, her heels soft against the polished floor. Her hand gripped tightly onto Noah's, his small fingers curled trustingly around hers. He clutched a toy plane in his free hand, unaware of what was unfolding around him. They moved like shadows, quiet, unseen, just a mother and son trailing the truth. Through the large glass divider, she spotted Marcus near the luxury retail row, his arm around a woman Elena had never seen before. Cassie's head was tilted back in laughter, the red coat striking against her pale skin. Elena's breath hitched. Marcus leaned down, whispering something into the woman's ear before accepting a glossy white shopping bag from the boutique clerk. Cassie smiled, looping her arm around his as they headed toward the private terminal. Noah tugged at Elena's sleeve. "Mommy, is that Daddy?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped back, guiding them toward a nearby support column. From behind its shadow, she lifted her phone. The lens focused. Snap. Cassie's hand on his chest. Snap. Marcus tucking the perfume bag into her carry-on. Snap. The intimacy was unmistakable. Elena didn't blink, but her fingers trembled. Noah craned his neck. "Is Daddy playing dress-up?" Elena lowered the phone, crouching to his eye level. Her voice was calm, carefully measured. "Sweetheart, remember how we practice secrets? This is one of those times." He nodded seriously. "Like birthdays?" "Exactly like birthdays." She kissed his forehead. Then, without warning, Noah broke into a sprint. "Daddy!" Elena's stomach dropped. "Noah, wait!" But the boy had already cleared half the terminal, his toy plane bouncing from his grip. Marcus froze mid-step. Cassie turned, confused. "Daddy, wait!" The sound pierced the hush of the terminal. Several heads turned. Marcus's face drained of color. His eyes locked on the child. He didn't move. Cassie looked between Marcus and the boy, her smile flickering, then fading altogether. Elena caught up just in time, kneeling to wrap her arms around Noah. "Not yet," she whispered tightly. "Not yet." Noah looked up, puzzled. But he was gonna leave. Elena swallowed. "I know." Marcus took a step forward. She stood, straightening her coat, eyes locked on her husband from across the glass wall. Calm. Composed. Then, with the slow grace of a woman who'd practiced this moment 100 times in her head, she turned away. Noah's hand found hers again, smaller now. They walked back toward arrivals. Behind them, Marcus watched in silence as his wife disappeared into the crowd, with the son he barely recognized anymore. Cassie touched his arm. "Who was that?" Marcus didn't answer, and somewhere in the depths of Elena's coat pocket her phone buzzed. Images saved, Time-stamped. Ready. Rain glazed the city like a slow, steady whisper as Marcus stepped into the West End apartment, his shoes leaving wet marks on the hardwood. Cassie tossed her coat on a velvet bench and turned to face him with bright eyes. Well, isn't it perfect? He looked around, blinking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a quiet street. She'd chosen deep green walls, antique gold accents, and framed vintage maps. In the corner, a record player spun something soft and slow. A bottle of red wine sat waiting on the counter. Cassie stepped behind him, slipping her arms around his waist. I made it ours. Marcus forced a smile, but his shoulders stayed rigid. You didn't have to. She pulled back slightly, studying his face. You don't like it? He glanced toward the curtains and slowly walked over, parting them just enough to peek outside. No one there. Still, he closed them tight. I said it's nice, he replied, voice lower now. Cassie didn't move. You've been different since the airport. Marcus exhaled sharply and turned away from the window. It's just work. Zurich didn't go as clean as I thought. Cassie walked to the record player and lifted the needle. The silence that followed was heavier than the music. Is that really what you're running from? She asked quietly. Marcus looked up, startled. What? She leaned against the windowsill, arms crossed. You check your phone like it's a detonator. You double-lock doors. You flinch every time someone says your name too loud. He said nothing. Cassie studied him. It's her, isn't it? Marcus didn't deny it. She walked over to him slowly. You said she didn't care anymore. She didn't used to, he murmured. Now I'm not so sure. Cassie tilted her head. She followed you, didn't she? He looked at her, then really looked at her. Cassie's lips curved slightly. I saw her. At the terminal. Black coat. Holding the kid back. His eyes widened. I saw her before the boy called out. Cassie added. You didn't. Because you were pretending to be someone else. Marcus sat down on the arm of the leather sofa, hand running through his hair. Cassie stepped closer. You told me this was real. You said you were done lying. I meant it, he said, too quickly. Cassie's face softened just a little. Then tell me what the plan is. He didn't answer. Across town, Elena sat across from a man with silver temples and eyes that didn't blink enough. She slid the phone across the cafe table. On it, the photo, Cassie's hand on Marcus's chest, glowed under the overhead lights. The investigator tilted the screen. She's the one you mentioned? Yes. He nodded. Discreet surveillance? Or do you want me to go loud? Elna sipped her tea. Neither. He raised an eyebrow. I want you to find out who she is, Elena said softly, and what she wants. And him? Elena looked out the rain-streaked window. Her reflection stared back. Him? She repeated. He already gave me the answers. I just need the proof. Back at the apartment, Cassie placed the diamond necklace back in its box and set it beside the untouched wine. Marcus watched her. We still good? He asked. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Depends. Are we still pretending? Outside, the rain picked up, tapping the windows like someone trying to get in, before the diamonds, before the private jets, before the whisper of Zurich, curled into a lie. There was a folding chair, a flickering ceiling light, and a circle of strangers trying to forget the dead. Marcus sat with his arms crossed, posture too stiff for group therapy. His tailored blazer looked out of place beside the frayed sleeves and shaking hands around him. But he came every Wednesday, never speaking, always listening. That's where he first saw her. Cassie. She sat 2 chairs away, hoodie zipped to her, chin, eyes hollow. She didn't speak either, not for the first 3 sessions. Then one evening, when the topic turned to abandonment, she lifted her head and whispered, Sometimes it's easier to feel nothing at all. That sentence cracked something in him. After the session, he offered her a ride home. She refused. So he waited outside the building until she came out, then followed her halfway down the block before finally calling her name. Cassie, right? She turned slowly. You're the guy who doesn't talk. He forced a smile. I talk when it matters. She shrugged. Lucky you. There was something in her voice. Resentment, maybe. Or challenge. Either way, it drew him in. Over the next few weeks, they began sharing quiet moments after group, sitting in silence, trading pain like currency. Marcus told her things he hadn't told Elena in years. About his mother's overdose when he was 10, about finding her in the bathtub, about the part of him that always felt like it failed to save her. Cassie listened. She never cried. Not even when she said her own mother used to punish with silence, locking her in closets for hours, whispering, let's see who misses. You. Marcus brought her coffee once, then a cab ride home, then lunch, then a hotel room. He told himself it wasn't cheating, just compassion. Cassie was broken, fragile. She needed someone, and he knew how to be that someone. But what Marcus never noticed, what he never bothered to ask, was how Cassie paid her rent, despite not having a job, or why she kept showing up at that trauma center long after her therapy had ended. She'd watched him from the beginning. Noticed the watch first, then the shoes. Then the car he parked 3 blocks away to avoid attention. She'd picked him like a card from a stacked deck, because Cassie wasn't there to heal. She was there to hunt. In present day, Marcus sat on the edge of the apartment's bed, shirt unbuttoned, staring at the scar above his knee. A childhood accident. He remembered crying into his mother's lap. She'd stroked his hair and said, "You'll always protect people, even when it hurts you." Cassie entered the room quietly, fresh from a shower, towel wrapped around her hair. You okay? She asked. He nodded, not meeting her eyes. Thinking about her? She added, drying her hands. No, he lied. She smiled faintly. Lying looks different on you these days. He glanced at her, then away. Cassie sat beside him, close but not touching. You ever wonder what made you choose me? Marcus paused. No, because I do, she said softly. And I think it has less to do with love and more to do with memory. He looked at her then, and for the first time in months, he saw her clearly. Not the woman he wanted to save, but the woman who had found his wound and decided to live inside it. The house was still, quiet in a way that only betrayal could make. Idalena sat cross-legged on the bedroom floor, Marcus's tablet glowing in her lap like a forbidden secret. The storm outside tapped gently against the window panes, but her focus was absolute. The room smelled faintly of his cologne, a scent that used to soothe her. Now it felt like a trap. She had waited until Noah was asleep, until the hallway creaked, with the familiar rhythm of safety. Then she'd gone looking, not for evidence, but for answers. There was a difference. The home screen held nothing unusual. But Elena knew Marcus hid things in layers, buried beneath folders and file names designed to bore. She found a folder titled Q4 Investor Prep. When she opened it, it asked for a password. Her lips curled. Predictable. She tapped a string of characters. E128N, Elena. December 8th, Noah. His birthday. Access granted. Inside was not a presentation, not spreadsheets, not market projections. There were voice memos. 16 of them, dated weekly. Her heart began to pound, but her face remained calm. She tapped the latest file. Memo, were 16. Marcus's voice filled the room. Low, tired, intimate. Cassie doesn't ask for anything. That's what I like most. With her, I'm not responsible. I'm not being measured every second. I'm allowed to exist. Elena would never understand that. Elena sat perfectly still. She opened memo number 15. Noah laughed today. That laugh, it hits me in the ribs. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I'm watching someone else's life through glass. A beat of silence. Then, I didn't ask for this. I don't even think I'm good at it. Fatherhood, husbandhood, any of it. Elena's hand trembled slightly, but she pressed next. Memo Narir 14. There are moments with Cassie, tiny moments, where I forget who I am. Not Marcus the provider, not Marcus the father, not Marcus the pretender, just me. And God, it feels good. But Noah, his laugh won't let me go. Every time I hear it, I remember who I'm supposed to be, who I told myself I was. And I hate that feeling. I don't want to be pulled back. I don't want to be a father. The words echoed long after the file ended. Elena sat frozen, the screen dimming slightly in her lap. Then slowly she tapped each memo. Delete, 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 until only memo dar 14 remained. She transferred it to a locked folder. Not for leverage, not for revenge, for truth. Because when people showed you who they really were, you needed to remember, no matter how badly you wished you hadn't looked. She placed the tablet beside her and stood, quietly smoothing her robe. Noah stirred in the next room, letting out a soft, sleepy giggle in his dream. Elena's eyes welled, but no tears fell. She walked into the hall, barefoot and steady, like someone preparing for a war she didn't start, but absolutely intended to finish. The office smelled of leather and ink, sterile, serious. Elena sat across from the attorney, hands folded neatly in her lap, every movement composed. Her navy blouse was buttoned high, her expression unreadable. The woman across from her, Rachel Hoyt, divorce and estate lawyer for the Manhattan elite, watched her carefully. So, Rachel began, pen hovering above her legal pad. Are we talking divorce, legal separation, or strategic leverage? Elena didn't smile. None of the above. Rachel raised a brow. Then why are you here, Mrs. Vance? Elena opened her purse and pulled out a folder. She slid it across the polished desk. Inside, a printed screenshot of Cassie and Marcus at the terminal, Marcus's hand grazing the small of Cassie's back. And next to it, a typed transcript of voice memo number 14. Rachel blinked once, slowly. Okay, she said carefully. Are you looking to make these public, or I'm looking to protect my son? Rachel nodded, glancing at the papers again. Understandable. Custody modification? No, Elena said. I want to revise my will. Rachel looked up, surprised. Your will? Yes, Elena said evenly. I want to place every asset in a living trust. One Marcus can't touch, challenge, or manipulate. And I want to know how to do it without alerting him. Rachel leaned back in her chair. You realize if you start moving money and titles around, he'll notice. Especially someone like Marcus Vance. That's why I'm not moving anything, Elena replied. Yet, I just need to know the framework, what I can do, what he can't undo. Rachel hesitated. This sounds like groundwork for a divorce. It's not, Elena said calmly. This is about legacy, about truth. My son is 5. He still believes his father is a hero. Rachel studied her. But you don't. Elena didn't answer. After a pause, Rachel shifted gears. Okay, the short version. If your current will designates Marcus as the secondary beneficiary after Noah, we can rewrite it. You can place the trust under a third-party administrator, me, if you choose, and stipulate that only Noah can access it at a certain age. There are ways to lock it airtight. And he wouldn't know. Not unless you die, or unless he goes digging in very specific legal databases. I doubt he knows where to dig, Elena said quietly. Rachel scribbled a note, then asked, Why not just file now? With this evidence, you'd win. Hands down. Elena looked out the window. The skyline blinked with distant lights. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably buying another lie in a boutique gift bag. Because timing matters, she said. Rachel tilted her head. And what exactly are you waiting for? Elena turned back to her. Her voice was soft, but it cut like ice. For him to feel safe again. Rachel tapped her pen once, then slowly smiled. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Elena stood, gathering her coat. That's easy. Just don't betray a child's future. As she walked to the elevator, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You were right. They're staying at Haven Suites again. Want photos? Elena stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed, yes. Timestamp everything. Marcus arrived on Friday night with a leather duffel and a smile too wide to be real. Home sweet home, he announced, kicking off his shoes like nothing had changed. Elena met him at the door, dressed in soft gray. No makeup, no anger, just stillness. I thought you weren't flying in until Sunday, she said, voice light. He kissed her cheek. Board rescheduled. I missed Noah. Elena nodded. He's asleep. Marcus glanced toward the hallway. I'll see him in the morning. Elena handed him a glass of his favorite Cabernet. I decanted it, hour ago, he smiled, lifting the glass. You didn't have to. I wanted to. They sat on the sofa, an old jazz record playing faintly in the background. The lighting was dim, warm, intimate. It should have felt like a reunion. But Marcus's phone kept buzzing. He turned it face down on the coffee table. Elena said nothing. From a corner shelf, a small ceramic vase held a bouquet of white lilies. Half of them were wilted, browning at the edges. Did you forget to change the water again? Marcus teased, nodding toward the vase. Elena swirled her wine. No, I left them that way on purpose. He raised an eyebrow. I wanted to see how long something could look beautiful. While dying, Marcus blinked. That's dark, even for you. She sipped, then stood. I'll warm up dinner. Upstairs, nestled in a hollowed-out book spine, a camera fed live footage to Elena's laptop tucked inside her closet behind a false panel. Each room had one, discreet, hidden in objects Marcus never touched. A framed photo in the study, a vent in the hallway, a decorative candle in the bedroom. She'd installed them 2 weeks ago. She didn't trust her memory anymore. She wanted playback. As she ladled soup into a bowl, her phone buzzed. This one, private, silent, paired to the surveillance feed. Cassie, don't forget to bring me the wine you like. I'll have the tub ready. A minute later, did she suspect anything when you walked in? Elena didn't flinch. In the living room, Marcus replied with a smirk, thumbs tapping. Marcus. Not a clue. She gave me the wine herself. Cassie. Told you, she still thinks she's winning. Elena's jaw tightened. She returned to the living room, soup in hand, and sat beside Marcus as he casually deleted the thread. Or so he thought. That night, Marcus slept soundly beside her, arm draped across her waist. Elena stared at the ceiling, eyes wide open. She could hear the soft hum of the baby monitor. But Noah wasn't the one being watched. Sunday evening, Marcus packed his bag. I'll fly in again next weekend, he said, kissing her forehead. You've been amazing, Len. She smiled faintly. Safe flight. He was gone by 8 p.m. By 8:03, Elena uploaded all weekend footage to a secure cloud folder. By 8:10, she forwarded every file and screenshot, Cassie's texts, Marcus's smirks, the way his hand lingered on the wine glass, to the private investigator. Message. We're almost there. I want a background report on her family next. Pull sealed records if needed. She paused, then added, no one lies that well without practice. She powered off the laptop and returned to the living room. The lilies in the vase had collapsed, completely, their petals limp and graying. Elena didn't replace them. Some beauty she'd learned needed to die in plain sight, just long enough for the right audience to notice. Marcus adjusted his cufflinks as the black SUV rolled to a stop, outside the private terminal. Cassie sat beside him, lips glossed, eyes shaded behind oversized sunglasses. She looked like someone who belonged in silk and silence. Her phone buzzed, but she ignored it. You seem tense, she said. Marcus offered a faint smile. Just want to get through security without press today. Cassie tilted her head. Afraid. Your wife's watching again? He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped out of the SUV, pulling her suitcase behind him. The morning sun lit the terminal in gold, casting long shadows along the curb. Marcus reached for Cassie's hand. Just for appearance. Her fingers curled around his. Then a voice broke the stillness. Daddy! Marcus froze mid-step. Cassie blinked. Wait, what? A small body collided into his legs. A little boy, no more than 4, sobbing into Marcus's knee. Sticky cheeks, mismatched shoes, a plastic dinosaur clenched in his fist. Marcus staggered, back. What the hell? The boy looked up, lip trembling. You said you'd come back. Cassie dropped her sunglasses. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Ethan, she breathed. Marcus turned sharply. Ethan! A woman, flushed and breathless, rushed up from the rideshare lane. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. He slipped away from me when he saw. Cassie stepped between Marcus and the boy. He's not supposed to be here. Marcus stared at her. You told me you didn't have kids. I told you what you wanted to hear, she whispered. Marcus looked down at the boy, then back up at Cassie. You lied. Don't act surprised, she snapped. You're a professional, at it. A voice behind them cut through the air. Funny, it said, calm and crisp. That makes 3 liars in one scene. They turned. Elena stood just outside the sliding terminal doors, dressed in black slacks, blouse tucked sharp, one hand resting gently on Noah's shoulder. In the other, her phone, held out, screen glowing. Recording. Cassie's face paled. Marcus's eyes widened. Elena. She raised a hand. Don't. You'll only make it worse. Noah looked up at his mother. That's Daddy's friend? Elena crouched beside him. No, baby. That's someone who doesn't know what Daddy means. Marcus stepped forward. We can talk about this. No, Elena replied. We can't. Cassie turned to Marcus. She followed you again? No, Elena said, eyes still on her husband. This time I arrived first. A flash of a smile, not cruel but cold in its clarity, crossed her lips. She ended the recording. Thank you both, she said, sliding the phone into her purse. That's all I needed. Elena stood and walked past them, Noah's hand in hers. As they disappeared into the crowd, Cassie finally spoke. You never told me she was capable of that. Marcus exhaled, suddenly aware of the small hand still gripping his pant leg. I didn't know she still had it in her, he muttered. Cassie bent to lift Ethan, but the boy turned his face away. For the first time, Marcus understood what exposure felt like. Not in the tabloids, not in boardrooms, but in the helpless eyes of a child who didn't ask to be caught in lies. The internet didn't whisper. It screamed. By Monday morning, the airport footage had 2.3 million views. 2 children, 2 daddies, 1 man frozen between lives. The title read, CEO Marcus Vance exposed. Double life caught in public edited clips looped endlessly. Cassie's son clinging to Marcus's leg, then the camera panning to Elena with her own child, side by side, frame by frame. A man undone by his own reflection. The memes came fast. So did the meetings. Tuesday, 7:00 a.m. The Vance Corp boardroom was silent as Marcus entered. No handshakes, no smiles, just stares. Rashid, the CFO, broke the silence. We're hemorrhaging. Investor confidence. Marcus adjusted his tie. We've survived worse press cycles. This isn't press, this is character. That came from Sheila, head of legal. Her tablet screen showed a live broadcast. A commentator on cable news was asking, is this the role model the next generation of black business leaders needs? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. Wednesday, 9:12 p.m. Cassie was gone, apartment cleared, phone disconnected. Bank accounts drained. Marcus stood in the empty space, breathing in the faint scent of her perfume. A red toy dinosaur lay forgotten in the corner. He didn't pick it up, a note on the counter. I played my part. Yours was always pretend. Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Outside Noah's school, Elena was approached by reporters. Mrs. Vance, do you have a statement about your husband's double life? Will you be filing for divorce? Do you believe your son deserves better? She said nothing. She entered the school gates like any other parent. Straight spine, calm expression. Inside her bag, her phone vibrated, upload complete. The voice. Memo was anonymous, posted to a public whistleblower archive. No names, no metadata. Just raw sound. There are moments with Cassie, tiny moments, where I forget who I am. But Noah, his laugh, won't let me go. I don't want to be a father. The internet devoured it. Podcasts quoted it. News anchors dissected it. Activists debated it. Fathers condemned it. Strangers cried over it. It hit differently than the video, because this wasn't something that happened to Marcus. This was something, he chose to say. Later that night, Elena sat at the kitchen table watching Noah doodle airplanes on construction paper. Do you think Daddy will come over soon? He asked. Elena paused. Not soon. He nodded like he understood, but then added, It's okay. I don't need two daddies. She smiled softly and kissed the top of his head. You just need the truth. Across the city, Marcus sat in a hotel room with the lights off. A tray of untouched food sat by the window. The TV played muted coverage of his own downfall. A news anchor read tweets on air. He didn't just break vows, he broke legacy. The danger isn't liars. It's how easily we believe them. His phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. You buried yourself. I just lit the match. No name. But he knew. Outside his hotel, someone dropped a single white lily by the curb. A camera lens clicked in the distance. Everything Marcus once owned, his narrative, his image, his carefully constructed mask, had cracked. And the only thing, louder than his silence, was the sound of the world deciding who he really was. Spring came late that year. The air still held a bite, and the city hadn't decided whether to bloom or hibernate. Life moved forward, even if some people stayed exactly where they were. Marcus Vance sat in the middle of it, motionless, invisible. The perfume shop at JFK's private terminal hadn't changed. Same gold accents, same white marble counters, same dizzying cloud of florals that clung to every breath. But the man sitting at the edge of the boutique was no longer the one who'd walked through with swagger and secrets. He wore no tie now, no wedding ring, no weight in the world beyond the carry-on bag beside him, frayed at the handle. He watched as a young couple sampled fragrances, giggling over notes of vanilla and musk. The man kissed the woman's temple as she sprayed one on her wrist. A child tugged at her leg, pointing at a bottle shaped like a butterfly. They looked at each other, like there were no hidden files, no voice memos, no edits. Marcus turned away. It had been 5 months since the video broke, 3 since the board voted unanimously to remove him, 2 since Cassie vanished for good, leaving behind only a void and a red toy dinosaur, mailed anonymously to a P.O. box he never gave her, and 1 since he last tried to see Noah. It had been supervised in a cold room painted with cartoon clouds. He brought a book and a stuffed airplane. Noah had clung to the leg of another man, a warm-eyed pediatrician named Daniel. Hi, I'm your dad's friend, Marcus said gently. Noah frowned. You're not Daniel. Elena had stood quietly in the corner, arms folded, her expression unreadable. Marcus had reached into the bag and pulled out the toy plane. Remember this? Noah looked at it for a long moment, then shook his head. When the visit ended, Marcus sat in the car alone for almost an hour. The plane never left the bag. Back at the terminal, his phone buzzed. Screen, unknown number. Voice memo, 15. He hesitated. For a moment he considered deleting it without listening. But curiosity was a stubborn addiction. He tapped play. Cassie's voice filled his ear. Funny thing about men like you think secrets are weapons only you get to use. Her tone was calm, unhurried, almost kind. But I never wanted your name or your company. I just wanted to see if someone like you could feel small. You did. And I was never the only one watching you, A pause. Say hi to Ethan if you ever grow the courage. You left him too. Click. The message ended. Marcus sat still for a long time, phone resting heavy in his hand. Cassie's voice had changed. Older, sharper, but laced with the same ache he once mistook for vulnerability. He had thought he was the one saving her. Now he wasn't sure she'd ever needed saving. Across the terminal, a little boy laughed, high and light and free. Marcus flinched. He looked up and for a moment, just a second, he thought he saw Noah. But it wasn't. This boy wore blue rain boots and called someone else Dad as they walked toward the gate. Marcus closed his eyes. There had been a time when that word had belonged to him, when it echoed through hallways and backyard swings and bedtime stories. But now, it was just a title given to someone present, someone real. The perfume shop clerk approached. Would you like to try something? Marcus looked up, startled. Then, shook his head. I'm just waiting. For someone? She asked politely. He opened his mouth, then stopped. He didn't know how to answer, because truthfully, no one was coming. Elsewhere, Elena sat beside Noah on a park bench. He was tracing shapes in a sketch pad, airplanes, clouds, a small boy flying among them. Daniel approached with 2 cups of hot chocolate. Elena smiled. Noah looked up and pointed at his drawing. That's me, flying over people I don't need anymore. Daniel chuckled. That's some altitude. Elena brushed a leaf from Noah's hair. She didn't mention Marcus's last visit. Didn't say his name at all. She didn't have to. Some absences were loud enough to echo forever. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and spread the word and tell us where you're watching from. Back at the terminal, the families boarded. The perfume shop closed. The bench beside Marcus emptied. He remained, a man once called Daddy. Now, just Marcus, unwatched, unclaimed, alone. The end.